If you enjoy watching Common Ground online, please consider making a tax-deductible donation at lptv.org.
When we play concerts, of course the concerts are recorded, and I don't think the orchestra is aware of how good they sound at certain times, because most of the orchestra doesn't listen to the recordings. Once in a while we're on TV or something, and they do make a CD, a demo CD for the orchestra. The players are interested more in getting on to the next concert and trying to do a better job next time. And if they look back at the orchestra in recordings and listen to them, they're most likely nitpicking and asking themselves, why couldn't I have played that note just a little longer, or just a little shorter, or just a little louder? And so the idea of an orchestra musician being able to listen in an emotional or not analytical way, it's very difficult for them to get lost in the music, because they're always being really critical, especially if it's themselves. We've made a number of really good recordings, and of course we're very proud of those, but we're looking forward to playing new music and making more recordings and making better concerts. We're always looking at the future of that. It's very hard for us to rest on our last performance. And of course every piece brings new challenges, technically and emotionally.
In my musical past, I'd have to say that I have a lot of memories. I have a lot of recorded music, but that doesn't beat the memories of actually doing those performances. And with the Bemidji Symphony, we have only one performance of the music we've prepared, which at times can be so sad when we do something like Mahler's Second or the Brahms Requiem, that we only get to do it once. But I think that brings just a deeper thrill to it and more goosebumps more often, because you know that you'll never be here again with these same people at this moment doing this piece. And I think just being a part of something that is in the moment just makes it all the more exciting.
When we play music in the symphony orchestra, there may be mistakes. You always hope there will not be any. But the reality is that there are going to be some notes or some things happen that won't be perfect, like on a CD. So we do the best we can, concentrate very much, concentrate on playing my part and doing the best I can.
When you're recording something, or whether you're performing, of course you want to get everything perfect. But you know, a performance, you know you only have one shot, so you do your best. And recording, it's like, do I want to do it again and again and again, you know, and how many tries and takes?
I think one of the things that, because we've been around for so long and the majority of our life wasn't where you could always immediately hear what you had done with the recording thing. In some ways, I think all of that's good and bad. On the one hand, it's good to hear what you sounded like, but on the other hand, you have in your head, you might have something in your head, your memory of it might be actually different than what you hear on the recording. That's why Tom and I are kind of gun shy about, you know, they're recording the symphony here in Bemidji all the time.
The arrival of karaoke in our society is not...
It's kind of like, oh my gosh, I really splee-awed that note.
Right.
I really blew that note out of tune, or it's whatever.
When you guys come with your cameras and your microphones.
And then it's like, oh,
makes me nervous.
You're going to hear it forever, that nasty note in there. Then the other thing there's a difference between the live performance and professional recorded performances, because the professionals will make a CD of a piece and they'll take out the wrong notes and things like that. But you make a CD of the Bemidji Symphony Orchestra, you're gonna get what's there, and so take it or leave it. You know, so it's kind of, I know, it's interesting.
When you're the conductor in charge of it, you have to know what everybody's doing all at once. So you have this score and it has everyone's parts in it. And as you're listening, and so it's kind of hard to explain because you're listening in the moment, you're part of the moment, but your gesture is leading them in what they're going to do in the next beat and giving them some indication of whether it's loud or whether it's soft, and sometimes you also have to react. So it's a constant combination of past, present, and future happening. And you're listening for everything from the pitches that are being played, intonation, rhythm, balance, whether one section is too loud or too soft. You're listening for really specific things, so like whether or not the violins are bowing in unison, what part of the bow they're playing in, a lot of really specialized things that go into it. Percussion, there are many specialized things in that. And so as a conductor, you're kind of in charge of all of that. And it's really easy for somebody sitting over in one section, particularly if they have some aspiration, they think, of wanting to be a conductor, for them to think, well, I wonder why she didn't stop the rehearsal and correct so-and-so. And as you're up there, you're constantly also making these decisions. You're hearing things and you're thinking, okay, Johnny missed that note. He's an excellent musician. I know that was a mistake. I'm not going to stop and make a big deal about it. Then you hear something and you think, you know, I've got to stop and fix that. You hear another thing and you think, I'm going to stop and fix that quick. You hear another thing and you think, I'm going to stop and really spend some time really woodshedding that. So it's a different thing, whereas if you're playing, theoretically you should be listening to everybody, but you're concerned with your own part. And so that makes a big difference.
Sometimes at the dress rehearsals, we have people come from different parts of the state that we're not necessarily at every other rehearsal. Those are our ringers. And at that time, there may be a part that I never heard in the brass before that I just stop and listen and I will miss my entrance. But luckily, that's a dress rehearsal, and then I know for sure to pay extra attention during performance at that point. But I would say there's still that adrenaline that comes with performance that kind of keeps you focused when you need to be. So hopefully I haven't gone off the mark too often during performances.
For percussionists playing in orchestra, we do a lot of counting rests. And so how do you stay focused? I concentrate very, very hard on counting the rests and making sure that I know exactly where I am. So very seldom do I ever, so to speak, get emotionally involved in the piece. I'm trying to stay focused on counting, picking up the right pair of timpani sticks, looking ahead in the music. And for a percussionist, if your mind drifts just a little bit, you're lost. And then you'd like to play the piece again.
There's a story about the soprano who was singing for her teacher. And the music was so moving to her, she started to weep. Her teacher gave her a crack in the stomach and said, you know, pay attention to what you're doing. Think about this rather than thinking about this. You have to keep control if you're a player, and you have to keep control if you're a conductor. But you can think about some of that after. Or you can actually feel that at the same time, but not get so carried away you lose track of tempo, rhythm, balance, intonation,
I think
and so
what
forth.
you do as well as a player, and I'm a French horn player, and so, you know, it's not like the violinist or the cellist who's playing all the time. But what I find myself doing on times when you're playing your part, I am really listening to how my part fits with everybody else. Who in the orchestra has got the same pitch going as this note that I'm playing? Who should I be tuning up with? Where is the melody right now? Am I hearing that melody? You know, am I hearing what the important thing, am I playing too loud? Am I really blending with everybody? So you have to really concentrate on that. I guess the only time I would ever get carried away is if, you know, you're not playing for a long period of time and you're supposed to be counting measures and you can get lost. because frequently you may rest for 50 measures or whatever, and you're counting on your fingers and your toes and
You
what
don't
else.
know how many of us sit in the back
Yeah.
row counting on our fingers,
And
waiting to play our
usually in a
instruments.
section, you got everybody is kind of thinking the same thing, and you're giving each other cues as to what's going on.
But at the same time, there's this other, you're aware of the musical intensity, and you gear up to help make that musical intensity. It just does, you don't sit there passively making sure you come in correctly. You do have to let that out. I think of letting it out on a string, but you want to be able to not let it go completely out of control.
When I have to count long rests, sometimes 75 measures, whatever, I really count on my partner, my second clarinet player. And together we're counting and we're kind of checking with each other and making sure we're on the right measure. And keeping my calm. When I have to come in with a solo passage, my nerves can overtake me and all of a sudden I freeze up. But if I stay calm and relax, it just comes out. And just maintaining that calm, it takes quite a lot of control, so to stay focused.
There's a wonderful quote by Martha Graham about this very subject of what you do in rehearsal. You lose yourself in the moments in rehearsal so that you can have that experience and that feeling. If we have the chance to lose ourselves in performance, that's wonderful. But sometimes there's just too much going on to be able to do that. I try to strike a balance. So, for instance, last year we performed Mahler's Second Symphony. There's a part in that symphony that will make me cry. I could probably start crying right now telling you about it. But in the performance, you probably need to be a little more in control than that. But in rehearsal, that's when you can let out some of those other emotions and have those experiences.
So you're in the cello section and the string section is playing this gorgeous melody with incredible harmony, and the brass players come in with this wonderful, rich, euphonous sound, and you've got 2 or 3 measures of rest. You have to not listen to the orchestra in the sense that you get emotionally involved in what they're doing, because you have to count your measures and make sure that you come in right. But at the same time, with a lot of experience, you divide your mind into 2 places so that you listen and enjoy and feel really great. It's emotional to hear the orchestra play so well. But at the same time, you have a little clock that's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. And after you've had a lot of experience, you don't get lost anymore. What happens, what's really interesting is that you get lost when someone makes a terrible mistake, because that throws everything off. Then you lose track of where you are because it's such an unusual occurrence for someone to really play a blooper. But after the concert, when you get together with the musicians, everyone makes a joke about it and we go on with our lives and the next performance will be better. So, but we really do have to concentrate very hard, although we can still enjoy it.
Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people November 4th, 2008. If you enjoy watching Common Ground online, please consider making a tax-deductible donation at lptv.org.